Welcome to my world, where every story unfolds.
So you're thinking about making the move north to Canada? Well, you are definitely not alone. In this explainer, we're going to cut right through all the noise and give you a super clear roadmap for 2026. We'll break down the different pathways, the tricky point system, and some of those common pitfalls you really need to avoid.
So, just how big is this trend? Well, get a load of this number. Right after the 2024 U.S. presidential election, Google searches for moving to Canada shot up by an absolutely incredible 5,000%. Now, while that initial craziness has cooled off a little, the interest, it's still way higher than it's been in the last 5 years.
And that's the real question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to type something into Google, but it's a whole other beast to actually navigate the complicated world of applications and point systems. So how do you turn that little spark of interest into a real, solid plan? Okay, so let's start with the why. What's really driving this big surge, and what's going on from the Canadian side of the border? Understanding the whole picture is key to planning your strategy.
And this is really a two-way street. On one side, you've got Americans who are just looking for a change. Maybe it's for universal health care or a different kind of work-life balance. But on the other side, Canada is actively looking for skilled newcomers. They've set a target to welcome 395,000 new permanent residents in 2025 alone. The welcome mat is literally out.
So, how do you actually get there? The next step is figuring out your personal pathway to permanent residency. Think of this section as your map, outlining the main roads you can take on this journey.
Okay, so at a high level, you've got 4 main options. Express entry, that's the main route for skilled professionals. You've got family sponsorship if you have a spouse or a partner in Canada. Then there are Provincial Nominee Programs, or PNPs, which let individual provinces pick you based on what they need. And finally, there's the student visa route, which is becoming a really powerful strategy.
Let's zoom right in on that student route. For a lot of Americans, going to school in Canada first is one of the smartest ways to build a bridge to permanent residency. And there's one specific permit that's the key to the whole thing.
The tool that makes this all happen is the Post-Graduation Work Permit, or PGWP. Honestly, think of it as a golden ticket. It is an open work permit, which means you don't need a job offer before you get it. You can work for pretty much any employer anywhere in Canada for up to 3 years. The one thing you have to remember is that it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. You only get one shot at it.
And this is exactly why the student path is so strategic. That Canadian diploma, it's not just a piece of paper. It's the key that unlocks the PGWP, which then lets you get that all-important skilled Canadian work experience, and that experience is worth a ton of points in the express entry system, which seriously boosts your chances of getting permanent residency.
Okay, listen up, because this is a critical update for anyone even thinking about this route. As of late 2024, a brand new rule came into play. All PGWP applicants now have to prove their language skills. And here is the kicker. There are 0 exceptions for native English speakers. You will have to take an approved test like the CELPIP, IELTS, or PTE Core and get a minimum score to be eligible. This is a new, mandatory step, no way around it.
All right, let's talk about the big one, express entry. This is where most skilled workers from the U.S. are going to end up, and it all boils down to a point system called the CRS, or Comprehensive Ranking System. I know it can feel super competitive and stressful, so let's just break it all down. This quote from a user on Reddit, man, it just perfectly captures the anxiety of this whole points game. You figure out your score, you get in the pool, and then you just wait. You hope the cutoff score in the next draw is low enough to get you that invitation. That feeling of being stuck just a few points short is a very real thing for so many people. So where do these points even come from? Well, your core human capital is the foundation, your age, your education, and this is a big one, your language test scores. Then you can get points for your spouse's skills and for how your education and work experience mix together. But the real game changers are in that additional points category. Things like a provincial nomination or that Canadian study experience we were just talking about can make a huge difference.
Now, here's a little wild card for 2025 and 2026. There's a lot of chatter that the government might get rid of the 50 points you get for a specific kind of job offer, one that needs a labor market impact assessment, or an LMA. That's basically a document that proves a Canadian wasn't available to do the job. If those 50 points go away, it could actually lower the cutoff score for everyone, opening the door for a lot more people. It's not a sure thing, but it's a huge development to keep your eye on.
So you've navigated the pathways, you've mastered the points game, and you got your permanent residency. You're done, right? Well, not quite. We're moving into our final section, and it's a big one that trips up so many people. The cross-border tax catch.
It's such a crucial question. You might be a resident of Canada now, but if you're a U.S. citizen, you still have to file taxes with the IRS. This creates a really complex web of rules for everything you own, from your 401k to the house you might have left behind.
Let's just look at a few of the key differences. In the US, married couples usually file their taxes together, right? In Canada, that's not even an option. Everyone files separately. Your US 401k has a Canadian cousin called an RRSP, but moving your money between them can get really complicated. Even selling your main home is treated differently, which can have massive tax implications if you keep a property in the US after you move.
The key takeaway here is that you'll have reporting duties to both governments. In Canada, you'll probably need to file a form called a T1135 to declare your foreign assets. And back in the US, you still have to file a federal tax return and report your new Canadian bank accounts using a form called an FBAR. The good news is the US-Canada tax treaty is designed to stop you from being taxed twice, but you have to navigate it very carefully.
Okay, I know that was a lot of information, so let's just boil it all down into a simple, actionable plan. Phase 1 is all about getting ready, doing those language tests and getting your education assessed. Phase 2 is go time, creating your profile and hitting submit. Phase 3 is the waiting game, where you plan all your moving logistics. And Phase 4 is when you finally land and get set up with the essentials, like your social insurance number and your health card.
And that brings us to one last crucial question. The world of Canadian immigration is anything but stable. Rules change, point scores go up and down. The real key to a successful move in 2026 isn't just about having a plan, it's about building a flexible one and staying on top of the changes. So the question is, how future-proof is your plan?
If your brain's tired from all that knowledge, take a little break and vibe with my songs. Let the music refresh your mind. See you in the next video.